Hey guys, welcome back to the Boost Plant channel. Today we've got a step-by-step tutorial on how to trim an aquarium plant. We'll cover a variety of different plants, demonstrating with this Dutch style aquarium. So if you've ever been a little bit apprehensive about how to trim your tank, this is going to be more of a long form video where almost in real time we'll kind of show you the entire process. It'll be filled with lots of tips and tricks, and we'll show you lots of skills you need to know, as well as highlight all the tools that are going to make the job easy. So before we dive into this trimming tutorial, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to stay up to date. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. So let's go over some of the basic tools that are gonna make this job nice and easy for you. So first of all, you're gonna want your basic trimming tools. So these are the UNS stainless steel scissors. We've got a pair of the wave scissors here, and we've got a pair of the spring scissors. The wave scissors are good for your general trimming. The wave itself is really helpful for carpets, and they're great for stem plants. These little spring scissors are nice for getting in the tight spots, little corners, or areas that are maybe a little bit cumbersome for these longer scissors. And then finally, we've got a pair of the UNS Pinsettes. These are gonna be great for, individually picking out any stems or floaters that are in your way. And they're also gonna be great for replanting little sections with the trimmings. In addition to that, you're gonna want a little bit of a tray to lay out any trimmings that you plan on replanting or selling or donating to a fellow hobbyist. And you're gonna want a cup for any trimmings you plan on discarding. So with all those tools in place, the final one is a towel. Often trimming can be a little bit of a messy process, definitely a wet process. So you don't wanna make a mess, have one of these on hand. So the first thing we're gonna do is drain down some of the water so that we're not splashing all over the place. And in order to do that, we've got a bucket and we've got the Canvy water change system. So this is great, especially for a larger tank like this. This tank is about 44 gallons. So while you're kind of doing the initial steps on your aquarium maintenance, you can sort of have this do the work for you. It's cut for the perfect height, and all you have to do to get it started is push this pump and it starts to siphon. So while that's draining, we're sort of gonna evaluate the tank and how everything is doing. So this Dutch style aquarium was set up about 6 weeks ago, and it's really starting to thrive and the plant growth is really starting to explode. So while it's not completely overgrown yet, which is sort of the eventual look we're gonna go for, now is a good time to trim so we can retrain the plants and get things going in the direction we want. So as you can see, most of the species in here are thriving, with some of them really blowing up, particularly the background plants, the Rotala in the back, totally ready for a trim that's about to breach the surface. Same with the Bacopa Monnieri, as well as this Pearlweed in the very front. In addition to that, the Hygrophila Pinnatifida is growing nice and tall, and we want to keep it a little bit more bushy. So that's kind of a basic evaluation. You always want to look at the health of your plants when you're going in for maintenance, see if anything is struggling, see if there's any melt, see if anything needs replacing. But when in doubt, trimming is a really good way to promote new healthy growth, and it's also going to promote compact, more bushy growth and better coloration. So it's really a win-win situation. We're going to start with the Rotala. The Rotala is about to breach the surface, and the more you trim Rotala, the tighter, more compact, better coloration you're going to get. So it's a great time to do that right now. So as you can see, a lot of these stems are very tall. So you want to trim sort of lower on the stem, because what happens is every time you trim a stem plant, where you've made that cut, you'll get 2 new points of growth. We call that the Hydra effect. And we've deemed it to be kind of unsightly, right? It's not as desirable as these long, beautiful stems. So if you trim down nice and low, we can actually replant those stems, and then the replantings will cover that Hydra effect. All right, so now it's time to replant. We've got everything somewhat lined up on this tray right here, and now we're gonna add some back to promote density. So do you have to replant after you trim? The answer is no. Depending on your level of patience and depending on how dense the tank was planted in the first place, and depending on your goals, you may or may not want to replant. However, when you first plant Rotala, it's most likely going to be on the sparser side. So replanting allows you to promote more density, which aesthetically looks really nice, right? When plants are super sparse, kind of has an artificial look to it. And when you have a really dense look, your tank looks more lush and jungle-like. And the livestock will certainly appreciate it. But you absolutely don't have to do this. And if you had a bunch of extra trimmings, you could donate them to a fellow hobbyist. You could set up something new with them. It's really up to you. Next up, we're gonna tackle the Bacopa Monnieri, which is actually looking quite desirable at this height. However, this is a plant grouping that we want to be even more densely packed for that beautiful, lush Dutch look. So we're gonna trim down the tallest plants and then replant them where things are looking a little bit sparse. So that way they grow up with the rest of the Bacopa and things will look more dense. So let's get started with taking down some stems. Same rules apply as with the Rotala. You want to trim down nice and low. You can always shorten the stem from there, but if you have a really high trim point like there, again, you'll get that hydra effect. Not super desirable. So we won't be taking everything down, really just plants that kind of stand out with their height. Like this one is towards the front and it's overshadowing some shorter Bacopa. So taking it down helps promote that sort of low to high effect we're going for. And some of these guys in the back, really beautiful, but we're gonna take them down so that the growth sort of catches up sort of across all the plantlets. All right, almost where we wanna be. Take this one down. Another thing you can look for plant health-wise are the internodes. So internodes are the spaces between groups of leaves. So you can see right here, that's an internode. So if you have very long internodes, that's a sign that your plant is struggling for light. And you either want to trim it down in case it's being shadowed, or you want to increase your light, introduce higher quality light. It's really going to depend. There's no one size fits all answer, but it's something to look out for. The other thing you want to look out for when you're trimming is the color, shape, and texture of your leaves. So diagnosing nutrient deficiencies is really, really difficult. However, there's a rough guide over on the Boost Plant website. You can check out our blog articles. Use that as a general guide, but if you're dosing an all-in-one nutrient fertilizer, like the UNS plant food, you most likely won't have to worry about any sort of nutrient deficiency. However, if you're not running CO2, you may find that your plants can demonstrate things that look like nutrient deficiencies. So it's really going to be up to you specifically, up to your tank's particular conditions. You really want to evaluate, okay, do my plants have what they need? Quality light, quality fertilizer, quality substrate, quality CO2. If all those things are in check, then you can get a little bit more nitty gritty and see, all right, well, am I missing X, Y, Z? But first address kind of those basics, and then from there, further evaluate. So these plants look fairly healthy, and you'll see that some of the lower parts of the stem, they have long internodes. That's normal. The plant was initially planted about 6 weeks ago when the tank was first set up, so it's gonna take some time to adapt to your tank's conditions. So there you go. During that process, we trimmed down some of the Bacopa, replanted it. Fairly easy process, so we're making good progress. It's time to move along. So you can see in the back, we've got a species of Selaginella. And this is a plant that's been growing on the slower side, so we're actually not gonna trim that today. That's something you do as part of the evaluation process. Anything that's growing slower, you wanna give it a chance to catch up, and by hacking down the plants that grow really fast, you sort of even out the growth. So if we look over here, more towards the front of the tank, again, we'll see the Hygrophila Pinnatifida. It's growing very fast, and it's growing a little bit too tall, and it's starting to get a little bit leggy. So we're gonna hack that down. We might even do a little bit of replanting. So Hygrophila Pinnatifida is a plant that can look very, very different depending on your tank's conditions. We're running this Chihiros lighting moderately low so that we don't get algae and things are kind of kept under control. And that way growth is reasonable and we're not in here trimming, every week. However, if this plant was exposed to really high PAR, really intense lighting, it would turn on the red side, which is really cool. Additionally, depending on the conditions, the growth can be really tight and compact, or it can look kind of tall and leggy. So right here, you'll see this stem right here, it's got a really long internode. So, you know, it's searching for light. So in hacking it down, we make sure that the base of the plant gets more light. We make sure that anything that was shading is gonna get more light. And just aesthetically, it's gonna look a lot better to our eyes, because typically long, leggy plants, they don't look so great. All right, so we've done the bulk of our stem trimming for this tank. Next up, we wanna tackle one of our more messy processes. And you can see the pearlweed in the front of the tank has carpeted really, really nicely and is starting to grow tall. Now, with this Dutch style scape, we do want a little bit of height with it, but it's starting to grow too tall and it's gonna begin to cover and shade out the midground of the tank. So we're gonna start to take that down. And the reason why we wanna do this plant last is because whenever you're trimming a carpeting plant, you're gonna have trimmings, you know, all over the place in the tank, covering things up, blocking your light out. So that's why we kind of save it for last. It's one of the more involved processes. But again, nothing we can't handle. So for this job, we're gonna demonstrate using the spring scissors, which again is great for trimming little carpets and getting in the tight spots, as well as for spot trimming. So you can see some stems are longer than the other. Now you could one by one, just kind of spot trim, take out your tallest stems, and kind of like train away any sort of stems that are going in directions you don't want them. And just like all other plants, you want to trim carpeting plants frequently because it's going to promote the type of growth that looks really beautiful, which is that sort of dense, lush growth. All right, so we've scooped out the majority of the trimmings, and we've also done the majority of taking plants down. So the final step before we do a big water change, refill the tank, and dose some nutrients is to kind of go through, do your final evaluation, and trim anything you missed. So while before we were going species by species, now we're gonna take a step back, evaluate things, and sort of make little cuts here and there. This is similar to when you get a haircut. You know, your barber goes through methodically, your hairdresser goes through methodically, and then they'll go back and they'll reevaluate and grab anything they missed. So we're gonna do a little more shaping in our stem area. Go through kind of quickly here. And you can kind of jump around all over the tank and grab anything you missed in this process. And with Rotalas, you could be extra brutal because they come back fairly quick. So with our epiphytes, things are looking really, really healthy. However, you might notice the occasional leaf that needs to be trimmed. Right here in the back is a yellow leaf, so we'll just spot remove him. And if you see any leaves that are missing significant tissue, you could spot remove them as well. Perhaps they have a hole in them or they've been torn. It's only gonna help the plant. So there we go. We trimmed, we spot trimmed, we trained the direction of our plants a little bit, and overall, the tank is looking great. So one final step after you do any sort of big maintenance or big trimming is you typically wanna do a big water change because you most likely disturbed the tank, maybe rolled up some nutrients. So you'll do your big water change, you'll refill the tank, and then you'll dose the tank with nutrients. We're using the UNS Plant Food Max. So we'll overlay some B-roll of the tank over the next few weeks as it recovers from the trimming and continues to develop. But if you like this video, be sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, drop us a comment, and hit the bell to stay up to date. Thank you so much for watching. Now get out there and create something beautiful.